This week on FX Guide TV.
We sit down with the team at Image Metrics to get the scoop on Project Emily.
This and more coming up next.
FX Guide TV is sponsored in part by DaVinci, makers of creative grading solutions, including the 4K Resolve. See www.davsys.com for more information.
Hello and welcome to FX Guide TV from Siggraph 2008. I'm Angie Richards. Well, Siggraph this year is off to an amazing start, and like last year, we will have multiple podcasts all week from the LA Convention Centre. We'll start the week with all three of the boys.
Thanks, Angie. Welcome to FX Guide TV #1 from Siggraph 2008 here in my hometown, Los Angeles.
Oh, great to be here, man. It's been a busy week so far. We've just been slammed getting from booth to booth, getting stuff out. We've got a big week, tons of great interviews. We've got stuff from manufacturers as well, big announcements from Autodesk, Fusion, PF Track, and more.
Yeah, we're covering a bunch of stuff that we don't necessarily normally cover, because I think the thing about Siggraph is that there's a terrific amount of research papers done, and oftentimes people are showing things that are really original for the first time. And one of those we touched on actually last week when we spoke to Paul about the face scanning. And what's really nice here is that Siggraph, we've actually got to show you the animation that comes from that. So whereas we started out with showing the face scanning in that previous episode, this time we can show you how Image Metrics has used that exactly to produce some stuff. I've got to tell you, the first time we saw this in the office, people literally would look at the monitor and say, "What am I looking at?" And we're like, "Well, she's digital," and they're like, "Get out of town." So
it's like, oh, is it just the chin, or is it? No, it's the whole face.
That's so amazing.
It's truly.
Well, check this out now.
Image Metrics is a markerless, performance-driven animation company. We specialize in high-quality facial animation for video games and films.
So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. So Emily is a remarkable project at a couple of levels, but before we get to that, I just want to have a background on the company for those people that may not know you. Can you tell us when the company started?
Yeah, Image Metrics was founded in the year 2000 by Dr. Gareth Edwards and Dr. Kevin Walker. And we grew from that office in Manchester in the UK, and our R&D facility is still in Manchester in the UK. And back in January 2006 we opened this production studio in Santa Monica. Which
is a great studio, by the way. Not lovely down here at Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And so, we saw you at Siggraph last year, but you've obviously, tell us a bit about what the company is providing for those people that maybe didn't get to see you before.
Yeah.
What is it you actually provide to the industry?
We are a facial animation solution provider to the entertainment industry. So our day-to-day business is providing animation data based on an actor's performance to video game developers, feature film studios, commercial houses, anybody needing animation data.
So now let's talk about the Emily project itself. Clearly there are two aspects to provide, say, a realistic digital actress for a feature film environment, where you have a lot of render power. Obviously, gaming will have a slightly different bias if it's doing for real-time performance. And we've spoken to Paul Debevic about his scanning technology, but obviously getting a good picture is one half of the problem, but actually having it realistically animate is a whole different subject.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you go about approaching this project, or Emily? Whose idea was it to come up with it in the first place?
It was actually Oleg Alexander's and William Lambeth, who are two of our artists here, and they came to me back in probably January this year and said that they wanted to create a photoreal character, photoreal human being character at high definition resolutions. So immediately I was interested in that. We took it to the management of the company, said, should we do this? And we went ahead with the project.
So now in this interview, you are actually real. I can vouch for that. But I must say that
when we sure?
But when we looked at the Emily clip when we first had it in the office, there were actually people in the office. We were obviously not showing it to anyone outside. People in the office were like, well, "What are we looking at?"
Yeah.
Like, it's almost got to a point that you guys have nailed it so well that you could walk past this on a booth and not actually realise what you're looking at.
Yeah.
That must be your holy grail, right?
It was a little concern of ours because we've got our booth 1229 at Siggraph, and we're hoping that people come by and take a look at Emily, or CG Emily. And we were concerned that people may walk past and not know that, just think this is a video playing, obviously. So we've put some little tricks in there, like a computer graphics reveal at the end to show the different processes and layers that we went through to get to this.
So I guess the pivotal question is, in her initial performance, it's a relatively staid performance because of the nature of the actresses being fairly staid. I mean, how, if I was a director talking to you about this clip and wanting, well, I'm going to have her in a much more hostile environment doing a lot more dramatic acting, I mean, how far do you think you can push it? Do you think that you're limited in how expressive you can get the face?
No, I mean, the rig, the control system that Oleg's designed is capable of doing anything that Emily can do. But the whole concept of this demo was to do something realistic and natural, because you can probably, I don't know if you've seen any of our past demos, but they're always over emotional, over the top, and because that's, you know, what we think people want to see. But for this time round, the vision was really to be natural and realistic. So it's more about the subtleties that you'll see. Like, I mean, we capture all the eyeball movements, which you don't get from other forms of animation technologies. So as the eyeball, you know, there's tiny little eye shifts that people have as we talk to each other now, that's all captured. Yeah, so it's just a different concept really to what you're talking about. But yeah, it's completely, the control system for the face can still match extreme movements as well.
So thank you for joining us. And I wanted to, if I could, just torture you a bit over some of the technical pipeline, because I think it's a really fascinating project, and I guess it's terribly enlightening to understand the sort of data that you got from Paul and then how you guys dealt with it. So at the first stage of the process, what was it that you were receiving from the light stage scans?
Oh, we got great data from Paul. Basically, we got the neutral scan, we got a diffuse map without any specularity, and we got the normal maps, actually all the normal maps, like RGB normal maps. So we had a ton of data to work with and kind of reprocess and, you know, turn that into what became the rig.
Because often we wouldn't get the different surface normals for the different wavelengths of light. Yeah. And that would have been particularly useful, I assume, because further down the pipeline, that pretty much eliminated the need for subsurface scattering, right? Am I?
No, we didn't. I mean, quite honestly, we stuck with old school techniques and just yeah, we actually didn't use the different normal maps. What we ended up using was displacement maps because what the normal maps give you is an up-res version of a structured light scan. So what we got was like really high-res, poor level detail scans, which we then, once we built our blend shapes, we just, because they're on top of each other, we projected right onto to our blend shapes, and we got the displacement maps for like the wrinkles and stuff like that.
Because I was interested in that, because in her poor level detail, on her neutral pose, a pore may be effectively circular, but on a stretched facial expression, those pores actually become elongated almost to lines.
Yeah.
So were you animating the displacement map based on, or were you just shifting between them and blending?
We basically set up, you know, traditional displacement map shader network, and we had about 30 displacement maps. We could have used more actually, because we have more data, but we found that she didn't really make those shapes.
Right.
So we just stuck with the 30 that we picked basically. But there were about 75 blend shapes in the rig, so we definitely could have had more displacements.
If we were doing this as a scan based on a life cast, we'd actually expect the process of the life cast to affect the skin, because obviously the weight of it and stuff.
Yes, right.
Did you notice any differences in the nature, because you obviously must have had before life scans from casts?
Yeah, that was actually our original plan before we heard that Paul Debevic could get, you know, these high-res scans from a live subject, which was never possible before, basically. It's like a new thing. So as soon as we heard that, we're like, oh, wait a minute, you know, we don't need to like create a live cast, actually put Emily through that process would be painful, you know?
Well, the other thing, of course, if you did the live cast, you'd only get the one neutral pose, because no actress can hold an exaggerated expression for more than a few seconds. But then the scanning techniques only require them to hold those exaggerated facial positions for what, 3 seconds?
For about 3 to 4 seconds. Yeah, that's all.
So now the data's coming over to you, and it's obviously not rigged, it's just neutral data in that sense.
Yeah.
So what's some of the complexity that you have to put into to actually rig for animation?
Yeah, well, basically we just used the scans as reference, and we created 75 blend shapes, which were based on a facial action coding system. So this is all like traditional facial rigging stuff. You know, I came up with the shape set over the past couple of years.
So when you got the rigging built, how long did it take you to actually time the animation to your satisfaction?
Well, the animation actually took a really short time. The first pass took one animator 1 week to complete, and then we had a second pass after we saw the renders. Just little fixes here and there.
Now, Paul's data would have been Sans eyeball movement, mouth, teeth, etc. Tell me how they got integrated.
Basically, what Paul delivered, you know, there was good reference for the eyes, but actually the eyes were the toughest part for us to do, and because the lashes kind of mess up the scan, there's a lot of dirt where the lashes are, so we couldn't actually use that part of the scan. We basically had to remodel the top eyelid from photographs several times.
And in that respect, the eyelids and the eyes are no worse, as it were, than doing from a live cast, because clearly you'd get neither of those on the same.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you based your animation on the second camera that was filming her face on?
That's right. Yeah, that's where we did our, you know, performance analysis, as we call it, and that's where we got the movement from.
So obviously, if the eyes are the window to the soul, then not only do you want to get those eyes right, but also you want to, and one can sort of perceive focus very accurately when looking at eyes. So if she was looking past the interviewer or was changing her focus point, you'd really notice it. Was that hard to do, or have you got an automated process for
No,
that?
I mean, that's all automated. That's all part of the image metrics animation solution. So.
And so how would this stage of the process compare with what you'd done before? Was there something unexpected at this point, or were you just pretty much on course for what you'd expected when you started the project?
Well, we had some unforeseen issues. For example, with the head tracking, basically her face had to be superimposed over Emily's face in the plate, and the problem was that there was nothing to track on her face. There was nothing to motion track because there were no markers. And honestly, if we were to do this again, we would put a few tracking markers because that would really help us out.
Yeah. In fact, I think the nostrils are one of the only things that you can really lock to that don't change a lot with the
Actually,
expression.
no, that's
Really?
not true. They do change. They do change shape all the time. You know, maybe the tip of the nose, but even that actually changes as well. So all you have really is like the ears and the top of the head. I think for both of us, both William and I, the eyes were the toughest bit to get right. It's just, you know, the shape has to be right from every possible configuration. I mean, if she looks down, if she blinks while looking down, you know, if she's, you know, like focused. So the animation was actually the easy part. The rigging and the shading of the eyes was like 90% of the battle.
So I guess the $64,000 question is how viable all of this is if you were to be commissioned to do this for, say, a feature. If somebody sees this, at Siggraph obviously a lot of technical papers given that are really not aimed at production.
Right.
But your company is much more production focused.
For sure, yeah, for sure, it's what we do. So basically, yeah, if we were to do this again, from a rigging point of view, from a shading point of view, it would take another 6 months. There's no shortcuts here, for sure. But from an animation point of view, if you gave us a rig that already works and already has a shader set up and it's ready to go to render and it looks great, that's the bulk of our business, you know. So we would animate it in and out. That would be really quick for us.
I think one of the funniest things about looking at something like this is that we tend to pick it apart in enormous detail, only to then discover that the thing that I see as a render fault is actually something that was there on the natural actress, though I don't normally stare at live action footage to this degree and kind of... So I guess the question is, how well do you feel you achieved your initial aim, which is a photoreal person matching to an actual actress?
Right, good question. My answer is, honestly, that to date, this is the best. But there will be better, you know? That's how we feel about it. But then again, we have been staring at it for 6 months straight, so we're pretty tough critics.
Look, I want to say congratulations. I think it's outstanding work and certainly some of the best I've ever seen. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So as you can see, we're going to try and not only bring you the fun stuff from Siggraph, but also some of the more serious, more in-depth discussions too. After all, while it may be popular to focus on the big budget films, Siggraph also presents us with an amazing opportunity to dig deep into the latest advances and of course the people behind those. So on a serious note, I want to thank all of the comments and emails about our slightly new direction and the level or depth of discussion you want to see. So far, the consensus is somewhere between Cinefix and Top Gear, and if we veer away from that too far, then just drop us a line and let us know. Well, until next time, see ya. For more industry news, in-depth features, podcasts and forums, check out fxguide.com. And for visual effects training, check out fxphd.com.